I'm Angelino. Welcome to my f***ed up city. I was born here, and I'll probably die here too. They call this place DMC. Probably stands for desperate, miserable, corrupt. So, I got a policy. Don't ask questions, don't get involved.
Yeah, that's right. We're about to review this crazy-ass movie. Stick around. What's up, universe, and welcome back to the web's first must-see comic and culture show. Welcome to Comic Universe, guys. I'm one of your hosts, as always, C-Dubs, and as you can see, I'm riding solo on this video. Well, again, got Mikey in the back sleeping. Dog's always sleeping. Anyway, guys, we are reviewing this crazy-ass film that I saw last night called M.F.K.Z. Basically, motherfuckers. That's right. We are reviewing Motherfuckers. This crazy-ass French anime fusion movie that was absolutely batshit bonkers. Like, it was absolutely crazy. Just to kind of put in perspective, it was directed by Shojiro Nishim. This is based off of a comic book off of the same name. This cast is starring RZA, Michael Chiklis, Danny Trejo, and Vincent Staples. This movie was not prepared for what I got.
So, I got a policy. Don't ask questions, don't get involved. But then, I saw her.
Angelino. The kid is special. Promised I'd find you, kid. And I'm a man of my word.
What the f-
Contact. What do they want?
You know, I've seen worse. Definitely have seen worse. I've seen crazier. Definitely have seen crazier. But this was just the right amount of craziness at 2 o'clock in the morning for me to be like, when it was over, I was exhausted. It was time to go to bed. But guys, as always, in any of our reviews here, we're going to give you the good, we're going to give you the bad, and we're going to give you the badass. And guys, so let's go ahead and jump into Motherfuckers. So the overall arcing story of this crazy-ass movie is we follow Angelino, Vinny, and Willie to a less degree throughout their crazy adventure. So the movie starts off with Angelino as an infant being his mom is running down an alleyway being chased by a bunch of mobsters. And we come to find out that there's something unique or special about this baby because they want to kill him because his father was a traitor. He's kind of this not supposed to, have been born, essentially. So she ends up kind of getting away thanks to the help of this weird dog, if you will. And the baby is kind of tucked away in a dumpster, and they can't, they get a hold of the mom, and unfortunately they kill the mom. We pick up with Angelino, who is best described as, I guess, a mix between the Heartless from Kingdom Hearts and your average American Latino in LA, if you will. Or I should say your stereotypical Latino in South Central LA type of thing. And he's this very unique looking individual. The art style to this film, again, if you're not really familiar with Shojiro Nishim, I believe I'm saying that right, he's worked on movies like Akira, Batman, Gotham Knights. So this guy, his work is top notch. And again, this is based off of a comic book, which I have not read, but this movie did make me want to search out the source material so that I could actually read it to get a better understanding, because this movie can, at times, move really fast, then slow down to a screeching halt, and then basically make a quick left turn, and you're like, where the hell? How did we get here? And so it doesn't necessarily do the best of tying up all the loose ends. But, getting on with the good, guys. The voice acting, top notch. The music, fantastic. It's like a synthesizer / dubsteppy / hip hop vibe. And I don't know this for sure. I didn't look at this, and I guess I should have before I recorded this video. But with RZA being involved to some degree, I could only imagine that maybe he had something to do with the music as well. Because 9 times out of 10, when he's in a movie, That's probably his biggest influence is the soundtrack and or score of the
It looks like the cops have joined the party.
So I don't want to completely give him credit, but knowing the RZA, he may have had something to do with the soundtrack to this, at least the dubbed version, which is what I saw. Because again, this is a French and Japanese combination of a movie. These two different guys got together to bring this to life. And it was a 2-day event that came out around October that I did actually hear about, but I didn't see anything about it. So I totally escaped my mind, and I saw it online, and I was like, well, this looks interesting. Let me check it out. And man, like I said, at 2 o'clock in the morning, it blew my mind. And the action set pieces are really, really good. And there's this thing, I don't want to spoil too much about the film. We find out that Angelino is what is known as a macho. And these machos are essentially an alien race that has come down long ago and has basically treated the world like they, if you will. They live, I should say. You know, Kick-Ass, Chew Bubblegum, Rowdy Piper movie. So they've taken over, placed, their alien species in positions of power throughout the city. And they basically have one rule: don't taint the bloodline, essentially. Don't be messing around with the human women. And this one particular macho did, and this is how we got Angelino. That is the only thing I want to give away, and that is a big spoiler, actually, guys, and I do apologize, but I guess it's best to know what you're going into with this movie, because if it ain't 2 o'clock in the morning and you're freaking just want to go to bed but you can't, this movie could lose your interest, but it's well worth the watch because the creativity, the artwork, the music, and the source material making you want to know more about this world, because this does a great job at creating this entire new history and lore to this world. And that's probably the best thing about it. So getting into the bad of this film, and bad is kind of the wrong word, because it's not necessarily bad. It's just, it's up to be desired for everybody, because again, we all know, as anime fans, when we jump into these type of films, sometimes there's some really grotesque and weird concepts that are involved. So sometimes you have to go into these movies prepared for those type of things. Not knowing that you're going to get them can throw you for a loop. Not to mention the as great as the art design is, there's some choices to the design of the characters, Angelino, Vince, and Willie. For instance, again, Angelino is this ink blob, is the best way to explain him. A humanoid ink blob that is, you don't want to just, label him as an African American, because that's not what he is. Because we clearly see other African Americans in the movie, and they're not in the same vein as him. And again, like I said, and I did spoil it, that we do find out that he is a mix of an alien race. And then you have Vince, who is, for all intents and purposes, he's got a humanoid body, but he literally has a skeleton for a head that is on fire, but not like Ghost Rider, just has a flicker of flame on his head. And it's not just for an aesthetic choice, it actually is like that, because there's a moment in the movie where they're fighting off this SWAT team, and literally Angelino grabs a can of, hairspray or something and sprays it at the flame on his head, and it creates a blowtorch effect. So it's definitely, and it's not just an aesthetic to the character, it's actually in real life. We don't get any explanations as to why these characters are like that. I don't know if in the comic book they do. If you guys in the universe have read it, definitely let me know. That was one of the things that kind of confused me. Plus the Willie, he is like an anthropomorphic cat with braces. While the rest of the universe seems to be, minus the machos, which look like, the rest of them look actually like humans. If you will, they can turn into these ink tentacle creatures, but the rest of them generally look like humans. It's just really weird that these characters, and they're also like 3 feet tall compared to everybody else. So it was really kind of wacky and wonky in terms of that. But the best thing I could chalk it up to is something in the vein of like Gumball on Cartoon Network, where there are these anthropomorphic animals about yay high, and they're in a world of just wacky and wonky, and to some degree some realistic looking people. That's really the best thing that I could chalk it up to, and it might take some people out of the film. Just made me question and hope that we would get answers, and the fact that we never got any of those answers as to why they look like this, other than, Angelino, I guess I just have to accept it. The movie did set up for a sequel, which is another good and bad thing. Good because if it does well, or I should say if it had done well, maybe we'll get more. And again, I could always go to the source material, which I do plan on doing, to get more. At least I'm hoping there's more in the comic book. However, that is definitely something, some people don't like when movies just set up for a sequel instead of leaving it off. And you can have a little window, but if it's just blatant, it's like sometimes like, well, if you don't do well enough, you may not get that sequel, and then it just kills your movie, makes your movie that much worse because it's not wrapped up in a nice little bow, if that's the case. So, going on with the bad, that's probably the biggest downfall to the film. But, overall, I did actually like the movie. And I guess it's time to get into the bad. Some of the other bad parts to this film is there's some stereotypes to, culture in America and culture in, like, Los Angeles, especially gang culture, if you will. And I hear, or at least I should say I heard that when this movie first aired in the film, after the credits, there was, like, this small little documentary on the making of this film, and they kept on just referring to it as like gang culture. But you could see that there's some ignorance, there's some stereotype, like movie stereotypes that they chose to go with, that there could have been a more organic flavor to this movie if they really would have done the research that they said they did. Now, don't get me wrong, some of that gang life is like that for sure. We have allegories for Crips and Bloods. They're called the Limes and the Grapes. As goofy as that sounds, of course, the Limes wear green, the Grapes wear purple. And they're in this blood feud, essentially. And our three main characters do find themselves in between this gang war and the Men in Black, who are actually the machos, if you will, that are trying to essentially capture them. And there's also this really side subplot, which is just kind of introduced and then just kind of goes out of it comes out of nowhere and just goes out of nowhere, to be honest with you. And there's these group of luchadors that they keep watching on TV that we find out that they call themselves, not the Avengers, the Legends or something. I don't know. They call themselves this special group. They're this enforcer group that believes in the myth, that understands that the machos are here, and that are trying to fight against them, essentially, and or protect the good ones, if you will. And they kind of just shoehorned into the middle of the movie, kind of rescue our main characters, and then they kind of just fade out and disappear, even though we're still dealing with the fact that they're trying to be, they're hunting them. So, again, a little bit mixed bag somewhere in the middle towards the end, if you will, and the end, again, with the cliffhanger of the moving into a sequel can be desired for, but overall wasn't that bad. I would recommend it. But let's go ahead and jump into the badass.